Two major pieces of news about Putin. First, according to CCTV News, Russian President Putin visited the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia on December 6. Peskov said that during the visit, Putin intended to discuss oil market issues with the leaders of these countries, including cooperation within the OPEC+ framework. Additionally, opinions would be exchanged on international and regional issues such as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Second, on December 5 local time, citing Iran's Tasnim news agency, Russian news agency Interfax reported that the Iranian president would visit Moscow, the Russian capital, before December 7, planning to meet with Russian President Putin to discuss bilateral Iran-Russia issues and the Palestinian problem. In essence, Putin, like a whirlwind, visited the UAE and Saudi Arabia on the 6th, then promptly returned to Moscow, followed by hosting the visiting Iranian President Raisi on the 7th. Putin's current overseas visit is rare. Bloomberg immediately commented after the Kremlin's announcement. Why did the US media evaluate Putin's visit this way? A significant reason is that after sanctions from the US and Europe, and being wanted by the International Criminal Court, Putin has significantly reduced his overseas visits. His choice is partly due to the audacious measures taken by the West, and partly because, after the Russia-Ukraine conflict erupted, overseas visits have become less crucial for Russia. However, recently Putin has begun frequent overseas trips, not only to China, North Korea, but also to Kazakhstan. Clearly, facing the West, Putin is becoming more and more confident. In this visit to the UAE, he specifically chose the day of the 28th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP28, arriving only after most world leaders had departed. In essence, he didn't attend the conference for its purpose but had different motives. In this video, we'll focus on Putin's visit to the Middle East, discussing the following: the purpose of Putin's visit, Putin's confidence, China's stance. So, what's the real purpose behind Putin's visits to the UAE and Saudi Arabia? In essence, his core focus in both countries is twofold: oil and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Why these two matters? The answer is straightforward. The world today is caught in a deep power struggle, where conflicts are intensifying. For Russia, with Putin planning a 70% increase in military spending by 2024 and another 170,000 troop expansion, there's a likelihood of Russia taking more decisive measures in its special military operations in Ukraine, all requiring financial support. Russia's finances heavily rely on oil, natural gas, and weapon exports. In such a scenario, Putin needs to solidify quasi-alliance relations with major Middle Eastern countries. Firstly, there's the oil price alliance. Putin, through communication with OPEC countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, aims to stabilize oil prices by controlling production. This benefits both Russia and Middle Eastern nations economically. Putin's visit to the UAE and Saudi Arabia is central to this objective. Otherwise, the guarantee for Putin's goals in the Russia-Ukraine battlefield next year won't be sufficient. With commitments from oil-producing OPEC countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia, everything becomes more secure. Regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's an exceptional opportunity for Putin. This conflict, seemingly premeditated by Israel to fully occupy Palestine, implies it won't end shortly. Under these circumstances, the US can only support Israel. For Russia, allowing the US and Israel to become mired in a war quagmire significantly reduces its own geopolitical pressure. Hence, during the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Putin aims to rapidly expand his advantage in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Therefore, Putin's visit to the UAE and Saudi Arabia is direct support to these two countries. Notably, representatives from the Arab and Islamic countries visited Moscow after recently visiting China. Clearly, Putin seeks to personally assure the leaders of Saudi Arabia and the UAE of support, encouraging Arab and Islamic countries to challenge Israel. Moreover, Russia will assume the presidency of the BRICS countries next year. Apart from India, all BRICS countries currently support Palestine. Putin's aim is to communicate with related countries to reach greater consensus, enhancing the role of the BRICS platform in international affairs. Putin's recent Middle East visit is remarkably assertive, balancing economic and political military strengths. Why is Putin now daring to visit the Middle East? Simply put, he's increasingly confident about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Over almost 2 years, why is Putin gaining more confidence? Because the West is running out of ammunition while Russian armaments factories are accelerating production, coupled with military support from North Korea. Though taking over the entirety of Ukraine remains challenging for Russia, it's safe to say that if Russia continues exerting pressure on Ukraine, it could further advance westward. With this assurance, Putin has the capacity to focus on other matters, and targeting the Middle East showcases his growing confidence in handling the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Why doesn't Putin swiftly launch a major offensive in Ukraine but opts for an attack in the Middle East? A crucial reason is the potential for gaining greater benefits at a smaller cost. For the US, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is an unavoidable issue, and it lacks the capacity to manage both conflicts. In theory, if the Israeli-Palestinian conflict expands, especially involving multiple Middle Eastern countries against Israel, the US might have to entirely abandon Ukraine. Then, wouldn't Russia reap the rewards as it wishes? Moreover, for Russia, there are other choices. Under Chinese mediation, if Russia and the EU ultimately compromise on the Ukrainian issue, implementing what Russia desires, so-called denazification and demilitarization, could be more advantageous than capturing Kyiv. For Russia, it needs a buffer zone. Given Russia's current strength, outright annexation of Ukraine might lead to indigestion, inviting prolonged hostility from Europe, which is intolerable from all aspects. Thus, Russia's current stance of not launching a full-scale attack on Ukraine could be about further preparations or seeking better opportunities, especially in resolving the Ukrainian issue following China's approach. What does China most hope to achieve? Settle the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through peaceful means. These conflicts represent the political and economic order of two distinct regions. The Ukrainian crisis signifies the political and economic order of Eastern Europe and even Europe at large. Meanwhile, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict not only embodies the political and economic order of the Middle East but also mirrors the world's political and economic order. If the Middle East can peacefully resolve these two issues, it becomes challenging for the US to wreak havoc everywhere. At that point, the US won't have the courage to confront China in a decisive battle in the Western Pacific. Currently, China is vigorously developing relations with Europe, aligning with China's strategic interests and those of the European Union. If China's efforts eventually mediate Russia-EU relations, fostering reconciliation between Russia and the EU on the Ukrainian issue, that would be truly remarkable. Putin, now focusing on the Middle East, aligns with China's comprehensive strategic cooperation. Everyone knows their role in this. Putin has made his move. Does the US know how to respond? Particularly, if Putin assists Syria in countering Israel, especially by expanding military deployments to Syria, what kind of scenario would that create? Wouldn't Middle Eastern nations then find newfound confidence in facing Israel? The Middle East's game has only just begun, and there are significant dramas ahead. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We genuinely appreciate your support.